Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I hope you are doing well. What an insane show we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining, whether it's live or in a segment on YouTube later. All wonderful. Reminder, we are live at noonish Eastern time, Monday through Friday, if you want to catch it, or you can watch it back on the homepage whenever you'd like the full show or watch those clips. Pam Bondi sat for a hearing in Congress, and she has a lot to answer for, as I'm sure you can imagine. And I want to go through some of these clips. I think this will go down as one of the most outrageous hearings in American history. It was all over the place, and Pam Bondi had the nerve, with Epstein survivors sitting behind her who have called her out for this cover-up she's engaging in on behalf of Trump. She has the nerve to scream at the American public and members of Congress that they should be apologizing to Trump. How dare they attack the president, as she says, the best president in American history. Now, before she even got to the hearing, here's a clip sourced from Midas Touch of her getting screamed at, deservingly so, to her face.
Bondi, you are a disgrace to the American people. You protect pedophiles who systematically rape children.
She has been the face of this cover-up. Does that mean that she's the ultimate person to blame? Well, as Marjorie Taylor Greene put it, it actually goes up to the top, and she's just working at the direction of Trump, and that is important to remember, but she is engaged in shameful behavior. And I really wondered, as I was watching some of the clips that I'm going to play for you, how she sees her place in history. Because, okay, you're in a position of power, but what's that for? What's that for if everyone's just going to remember your name for being the person who broke the law over and over by redacting potential perpetrator's name against the law? How are you going to answer for, or how are you going to feel about being remembered as the AG who covered up for the notorious child sex trafficking ring? Because that's what people think of when they think of Pam Bondi now, by the way. Just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button, the simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video. Here's Jamie Raskin's opening statement at this hearing.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Attorney General Bondi. You've got the best lawyer's job in America because your mission is justice and your clients are the American people. But to promote justice for the people, you've got to listen to the victims, like the women seated behind you today. Those are just some of the hundreds of survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's global sex trafficking ring who are demanding that the truth be told and are demanding accountability for the abusers who trafficked and raped them. You still haven't met with these survivors.
Which is absolutely insane. She still hasn't met with them. And he goes on to read out the names of the people in the audience. Very powerful. But despite that, Pam Bondi very quickly turned this into personally attacking Jamie Raskin.
I mean, you can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaim
not on our time. No way.
Reclaim
and I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order. Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I said that already.
45.
She says, "You don't tell me anything, you washed up loser lawyer." This is our Attorney General shouting at someone like you're on the playground in elementary school, hurling personal insults. Now, I don't know if in elementary school they'd be screaming you're a washed up lawyer, but maybe a loser, which she did say as well. And to think about, and this clip descends into similar chaos, to think about the subject matter at hand here, and for her to be so proudly spitting in and slapping the face of survivors, of people who care about justice here, by turning this into a circus and personal attacks and shouting and how dare you attack Trump. Even though they always act like the only reason we could be upset with Trump is if you had like a video of him abusing someone. And let's set aside all of what we have learned in the documents already. Aside from that, plenty of reason to be infuriated with him because of his obstruction of justice. That by itself, how he's handled this, is plenty reason. And with her specifically, she's been caught in so many lies or distortions. Of course, she famously came out and said, the files are on my desk, I have the list, and then there's no list. Oh, it's because I said that, but I hadn't looked, and actually in it was just a bunch of sketches. There was actually nothing in there. And then, oh, actually we do remember that whenever they shut down the cases, which were going on through the Biden administration, looking into other people, when they concluded nothing else here can be done, they pretended like there weren't really any Epstein documents they could release, that there wouldn't be any revelations. There's not really anything other than just child pornography, which we wouldn't release to the public, obviously. That was her line, if you remember. And obviously that very quickly got exposed not to be the case, and now we have learned a bunch of revelations and have people listed as co-conspirators. So for her to have this performance of outrage at how Democrats are exploiting this is so sickening. Here's more.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're gonna answer
theatrics
the
are
question the
ridiculous.
way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very
Reclaiming my
interesting.
time.
You can
When
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about they
reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted
clock.
him twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock and
did.
stop the
he
clock and
indicted.
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
What are you even saying? They indicted Trump twice? Kind of a weird slip up.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Yeah. What's the other one about indicting? You know the one.
Let's indict the motherfucker.
Right. Now, that one we haven't used in a while. That applies here. She gets asked about how many co-conspirators have you indicted? And then a few seconds later, she's talking about how Trump was indicted. And it's like, I don't think that's what you meant to say.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New York. We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when you ask a question, the witness gets to answer. You may not like the answer, but she gets to answer.
The question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like the answer, Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds,
I am
Mr. Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
Answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way.
Reclaiming-
And then that gets to whenever Pam Bondi lashes out at Jamie Raskin. So what's the goal here from Bondi? Why is she jumping in, not answering the questions, and trying to get as much of that screaming over each other as possible? That minimizes the time where substantive conversations are being had, which is the goal here. I think she knows, picture being her, who decided she was going to swear her allegiance to Trump over anything else, instead of operating as an attorney general as historically they're supposed to, which is with some level of independence, law and order, rule of law. Instead, she views herself as Trump's personal prosecutor. And after she did that, she then was put in the position, willingly, to engage in this Epstein cover-up. And as she's done that, she's forced herself into being exposed as a hugely dishonest person, but only because she doesn't choose to just go, you know what, I'm out of this. Let me admit, yes, I'm in the wrong. So in that position where she knows she's in the wrong, I know she does, and knows why people are upset with her, her strategy has to be distract, cause as much chaos as possible. Let's keep watching.
To release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why?
So first of all, and then you're going to see the craziest pivot in American history in a hearing, okay? Get ready. But do you know why? As I said before, there could have honestly been more public relations on this during the Biden administration. There could have been more explanation about what was going on. But what we learned afterwards was that there were still ongoing investigations that then ended as I've mentioned many times in the Trump administration, and ongoing litigation. It was the Trump administration who said, all right, it's all over now, which is then the time where we go, really? Well, then release what you have, because we all assumed there was more being looked into. But then watch her say, the reason why Democrats are talking about this now is because of what? Try to guess in your head what you think she's going to say Democrats are distracting from.
About Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking.
That's what they're talking about, is getting justice for Americans who weren't safe. And also, as I said, there's a separate importance to this aside from the justice, which is the main one. There's another one, which is with something this clear, this morally precise, you then get a sense of how far they're willing to go with their lies, even on something. If you can prove, as we have now multiple times with Letnick, Pam Bondi, Trump, that they're willing to be heinous or dishonest with this, then I think that should open our eyes up to just the scale of their dishonesty. If on something like this, that we should uniformly be on the same page on in pursuing justice and transparency, if on this they're willing to do what they're doing, then that tells us a lot about everything else. But then to say the reason Democrats are caring about this is because of the Dow, the S&P 500, Pam? And you know she knew she was going to say that line. She still botched it. She's like, the Dow, Donald Trump, the Dow. Number one, did you see the stock market performance under Biden? Okay, inheriting and then taking credit for something that would have happened before and also got slowed down by Trump. But aside from that, is that your argument? That people care about Epstein survivors because they don't want to talk about the Dow? Then you have this.
To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
And so that's another aspect to this, which is while they were redacting names they weren't supposed to redact, they were not redacting names and information and imagery that they were supposed to protect the identities of. So they stalled forever. They put a bunch of people on the task of finding Trump's names and trying to flag those, or the mentions of Trump. They delay, and still once they release, they expose identities. Of course that's something she should apologize for.
Congresswoman, you sat before, Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi.
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors. This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions. The witness gets to answer in the way they want to answer. The Attorney General can
that's
respond.
Not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she doesn't like the answer. So,
So you can see she does not answer and does not turn around, which I guess she feels like she can't admit wrongdoing for some reason for Trump's sake, or then you have a long list of follow-up questions about, okay, what about this, and this that you did? But it feels like on a human level, you'd be able to say at any turn, even if she was being dishonest, she could say at any turn, if we did something harmful, if we made mistakes, I am so sorry. That would be so easy just as a human being. But if you know that what you've done is intentional, now I don't think they intentionally released information, private information about victims. I do think they've been incompetent. And then I think intentionally they've engaged in many aspects of a cover-up. But because she understands there's been like behind the scenes meetings, we know they've had meetings with Trump administration officials scheming out how to deal with this. Pam Bondi reportedly had a meeting with Trump where she said, hey, you're like all over this thing. What are we going to do? And when she is thinking about that context, it would feel like she's leaking a little bit of her own guilt if she apologized, even though she should, than this.
First, he brought up the president saying they indicted me twice. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice. And you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. During impeachment, you said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016.
That is false. That is false, just so you know.
Have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump, all of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it.
So Trump attacks the survivors by saying this is a hoax. Privately, apparently, has attacked them, saying they're probably Democrats, even though that's not even true. You've had survivors say, I voted for Trump, and now I'm horrified. And I thought when he said he would, even though in some interviews he wouldn't, but sometimes he would pretend like he was going to push for transparency, that he actually meant it. That's not even true. But when Trump attacks the victims, Pam Bondi isn't demanding apologies. But if you attack Trump, then you should apologize. And she's bringing up Russiagate? Russia? We're going back to that? Doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? And then more.
Mr. Chairman, I would yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
May I answer?
Attorney General can respond.
I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure, this isn't a circus.
Okay, take this down for a second. You're the one making it a circus. Raskin Trump million. Let's just do this real quick. I'm pretty sure there's a simple explanation as to why Trump's name is coming up a lot. Because it's coming up a lot. Jamie Raskin reveals Trump's name shows up in unredacted Epstein files more than 1 million times. What? What does that even mean? How is that even physically possible? What? At a hearing where you're getting grilled about the Epstein files, why are people asking a lot about the name that shows up on like every page? I think you can figure that one out. And it just so happens that person's currently the most powerful person in the world and your boss and was responsible for the delay of this release. Makes actually a lot of sense why they would bring up his name. It's not shocking at all, despite her performing as if it is. And then we'll just look at 1 or 2 more clips here.
You've turned the People's Department of Justice into Trump's instrument of revenge. Trump orders up prosecutions like pizza, and you deliver every time. He tells you to go after James Comey, Letitia James, Lisa Cook, and Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve Board, and members of Congress like Adam Schiff, Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Chrissy Houlihan, Jason Crow, Chris Deluzio, and Maggie Goodlander, to name a few, and you snap to it. You replace real prosecutors with counterfeit stooges who robotically do the president's bidding.
Yeah, so there's a broader point here too that does show up with the files, but she should be grilled about in general, which is she has completely destroyed, I don't think irreversibly necessarily, but definitely powerfully degraded our Department of Justice, pushing out career law enforcement personnel, replacing them with loyalists, making sure that above all else, the priority is to operate in alignment with Trump's wishes, which is for so long a lot of work was put into. We're going to have, yes, the DOJ is of course under the executive branch, but to prevent a president from politicizing law and order too much and degrading the rule of law with their own political short-term ambitions, we're going to give some level of independence. You're still going to have the president helping to select who the attorney general is and choosing a lot of positions that do law enforcement, but there is going to be a norm, a powerful institutional norm, that there's some independence to that law enforcement. And that is a beautiful part of our system. And Trump is wrecking that. And I just want MAGA to understand that while I do believe if you elect the proper Democrat that values our system enough, they will try to rebuild the aspects that Trump has destroyed. But just know that if that president wanted to just let it continue operating like Trump set it in motion, but just for their political ambitions, I know you wouldn't like it. And one way or another, within our democratic process and our political system, you're not going to be in power forever. And if you want to set this precedent, I think you're going to hate what it looks like if you don't have someone who really, really wants to bring back those institutional guardrails, which I hope they will, but they wouldn't be obligated by your principle to.